So, what if I told you that the real secret to making a massive change in your life wasn't some new productivity hack, but actually a piece of wisdom that's thousands of years old? Well, today we're going to dive into an ancient Indian philosophy that shows how the biggest transformations, they almost always come from the smallest, most consistent actions.
Okay, so let's start with something we've all felt, that intense pressure to make these huge, revolutionary changes all at once. You know, that go big or go home mentality. But the funny thing is, that's usually exactly why we end up going home with nothing to show for it.
I mean, who hasn't felt this, right? You decide you want to get healthier or maybe read more books, and boom, suddenly you're completely paralyzed by just how massive that goal feels. It's the reason why so many of our best intentions just fizzle out before they even begin. Let's think about someone like Ramesh. He wanted to get healthier, and his very first thought was, I've got to start a punishing new fitness program. This all or nothing thinking, it's just a classic recipe for burnout. It frames change as this giant, painful chore. But here's the surprising truth, the secret that actually works. It's not about making those giant leaps. It's about completely shifting our perspective to focus on the incredible power of small, almost unnoticeable, but absolutely consistent daily steps. And what's so fascinating about all this is that this idea, what we might call atomic habits today, is anything but new. It's a principle that's been woven right into the fabric of India's most epic stories and traditions for thousands of years. You can see this captured perfectly in the Ramayana. Lord Rama's character wasn't defined by one single heroic moment. Nope. It was forged through his daily, disciplined habits, his prayers, his archery practice, which he kept up without fail, even during a grueling 14-year exile. It was the living embodiment of dharma, or righteous duty, all expressed through these small, daily acts. It was his consistency, not just his courage, that truly defined him. And this idea echoes through so many other stories. You have Arjuna's legendary focus in archery, Ekalavya's incredible self-practice, and of course the amazing transformation of the sage Valmiki, who went from being a robber to a revered poet just by repeating a single name over and over. These aren't just myths, they're absolute masterclasses in the power of consistency. So, okay, that's the wisdom, but how does this stuff actually work inside our brains? Let's break down the science of what modern psychology calls the habit loop, a pattern that, you'll see, ancient thinkers seem to understand completely intuitively. So every single habit you have, whether it's good or bad, runs on this really simple four-step pattern that our brain just puts on autopilot. First, there's a trigger, or a cue. That cue leads to a craving, or motivation. That craving then prompts a response, which is the habit itself. And finally, you get a reward, which is what tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's do that again. We can see this loop in action perfectly in the story of Arjuna, the legendary archer. For him, the cue was the daily call to practice. The craving was his deep desire for mastery. The response was aiming with that famous unwavering focus. And the reward? Well, it was an unparalleled skill that made him a legend. His focus wasn't magic. It was a deeply, deeply ingrained habit. But, and this is important, not all small habits are created equal. The real key here is to find what's called a keystone habit. This is one small change that creates this incredible positive ripple effect, and it starts transforming other areas of your life automatically. Think of it like the very first domino in a long, long chain. You just have to push one small strategic domino, and it sets off this whole cascade of positive changes, without you having to individually push every single one. It's all about working smarter, not just harder. Let's consider a classic example, the traditional practice of Surya Namaskar, or the sun salutation. Now, on the surface, it's just a simple sequence of yoga poses. But starting your day with this one routine, well, that can naturally give you more energy. And that extra energy might inspire you to eat a little healthier. And eating healthier improves your focus at work. You see the chain reaction? It all starts with that one core habit. And these keystone habits can be incredibly simple things. For instance, Suresh started by just reading 5 pages a night and ended up finishing tons of books. Radhika's simple habit of just having tea with her parents for 15 minutes each evening completely transformed the relationship. See, the size of the action isn't what matters. It's the consistency. That's everything. All right, this all sounds great, but how do you actually start? Well, the guiding principle here is maybe one of the most powerful lessons from Indian fables. You have to value consistency way, way more than intensity.
There's this beautiful ancient parable that says it all. A soft rope can't cut through hard stone with force or speed. It's impossible. But through slow, steady, daily friction, it eventually carves a deep, permanent groove. Your small habits work in exactly the same way, not through brute force, but through quiet persistence.
So here's your guide. First, start with a clear desire, your why, like Ramesh wanting to honor his grandfather. Then, start ridiculously small and create around it. And this is the most important part. Persist, but do not demand perfection. If you miss a day, it doesn't matter. The only goal is to show up again tomorrow.
So really, the takeaway is this. Stop waiting for some big moment of inspiration to strike. Just think about one tiny, almost laughably small action you can commit to today. A single sun salutation, one page of a book, a 1-minute meditation. What's the tiny seed of change that you will plant?